Thank you.
Nick, I got to admit that.
Thank you.
There's something there.
And guess what? It was retweeted by Christian Gonzalez, who might be in the know.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think Julian Edelman has inside information that Schefter and Rappaport and Glazer don't? Do you honestly think that?
Well, you're asking me a very tricky question that I'm going to take a second to think about before I answer.
Oh, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Do I think that Julian Edelman is in a position to do wink, wink rumors where perhaps professional journalists who have to go 100 for 100 or their reputations are at risk? I think it's very different.
No, that's totally fair.
When both of those things might be, if this ends up not happening,
right? No, nobody cares.
Hey, so Hall of Fame adjacent Julian Edelman.
So I guess my question is,
I think that. Do I think there's any credence to the rumor that A.J. Brown, it is financially disastrous for the Eagles if they trade him before June 1st, that perhaps with the draft coming up, you know what, A.J. Brown to the Patriots. We can't quite paper it yet, but perhaps that agreement is further along than just ice cold nothing.
Okay, that I think is totally in play. And maybe this is not the sports media ombudsman time, but I would say if Julian Edelman knows that, Schefter or Rappaport, you're allowed to report exactly that.
Yep. Well, maybe.
You're allowed, like, to say, hey, this is, all signs are pointing towards. That's not,
Patriots are very, Patriots are very interested in a union with A.J. Brown.
I hijacked this, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay.
Did you have a question you were going to ask?
No, I'm here to talk about A.J. Brown to the Patriots. Okay. No one thinks it's interesting. He's always like, oh, I'd love to go back with Mike Vrabel. I'm excited.
No, I think it makes sense. I think the deal makes sense, and I think you guys need a receiver.
Well, let me ask you this, because Crosby, there's been talk about that.
Yeah.
Should they prioritize A.J. Brown or Max Crosby?
I would say A.J. Brown. But I don't think we're giving up a number one pick either way.
Well, you can't get Max Crosby without giving up a number one pick. The Raiders, I think, will just run it back with him.
Okay.
Rather than if they had 2 ones on the board.
I totally
and Brew, thanks for asking the question. They got that up there.
That's why I was.
That's why.
I just feel like Max Crosby's kind of a brainstorm fun idea for the Patriots, who ended up getting to the quarterback in the playoffs. No. But A.J. Brown is a real need.
So, but why do you? So if he's a real need, and he's an excellent player, and he's, not in his 30s, and we just saw Trent McDuffie go for the 29th pick and stuff, Jalen Waddle, who I think you don't believe to be as good as A.J. Brown,
Jalen Waddle's not as good as A.J. Brown.
Go for the 30th pick and stuff. Why should you be able to get A.J. Brown for less than a 1?
That's a good question. Maybe we do have to give up a 1.
Okay.
Maybe if Jalen Waddle is the benchmark.
Jalen Waddle went for the 30th, a 3rd, and a 4th.
Yeah, which is why A.J. Brown is going to get a legitimate haul. Okay, so this idea that, like, Harry Roseman's going to be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, which is precisely why A.J. Brown is going to command a legitimate haul. So this idea that Howie Roseman is going to be like, I don't know, a 3rd rounder? Thank you so much for the 3rd. Oh, you'll throw in a 4th as well? Oh, thank you. We'll give you A.J. You want Devonta too? I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with Nick on this. Yeah, I'm with Nick. Look, Julian Edelman knows something that Adam Schefter doesn't. I understand what the other host was trying to get at, that Schefter has to operate within a certain structure. I've touched on this before. The Adam Schefters of the NFL, along with a few other insiders, are part of the embedded structure of the league as a whole. These are the rules everyone plays by. They all understand that information flows through a Schefter, a Rappaport, even an Albert Breer. It's all accepted as just how this works. This is how we get information. This is the way it goes. We all understand this is an entertainment business, and that's just the way it operates. Everyone has shaken hands on it. It's not just whispers, it's all essentially by the books. Organized leaks, organized reports, breaking news, that's how the system functions. So if this were reality, if this were true, Adam Schefter would be able to report it. He'd come out with something like, the Eagles don't want to trade A.J. Brown before June, but all signs point to them getting a deal done. He'd say, it's as good as done. And that's obviously not happening. And this whole wink wink, we're all Patriots thing. Obviously, A.J. Brown most definitely wants to go to New England. That's where he'd want to land at this point. He gets to immediately reunite with a coach he already knows. The Patriots were just in the Super Bowl, and Drake May is an awesome quarterback. So yes, he could instantly make an impact and compete for another Super Bowl. He wouldn't miss a beat. It's a lot different than going to the Carolina Panthers. That's an indisputable fact. So of course A.J. Brown wants that. Of course Julian Edelman wants that. Of course all these other guys want that. But here's the thing. Do you think if the Patriots had made this deal with the Eagles, that Julian Edelman and some players on the roster would know about it? That ownership and the GM would say, "We made this huge move. We can't talk about it. Everyone be quiet." Are you serious? Do you think that's how those guys operate? Did we learn nothing from what happened with Max Crosby and the Ravens? This stuff gets done in the middle of the night, in darkness. And you think random players know? No. Even the leaders of the team don't know. And now Julian Edelman knows because he played for them years ago and he has a podcast and he's cool and hip. What are we talking about? That's just so absurd. It really is. And then we're going to play this game where people say he's not going to get a first-round pick. Of course he will. And the Eagles might be totally fine with getting a first-round pick in next year's draft, not this year. They might not want the 31st pick. They might say, "We'll trade for next year." And actually, if you're talking about making deals, that's where it gets interesting. Setting aside the dead cap implications, if you're only going to get one first-round pick, you'd rather have it next year. Because there's a chance it either stays at 31 or it goes one notch worse. They win the Super Bowl and it becomes 32. Or it could be even better. You have 30 other chances that it improves. You take that risk. That's a better deal because Drake May could get injured, the Patriots could be awful, and that pick could literally be a top 10 selection. There's no chance this year that it could be a top 10 pick. It's impossible. It can't be the 15th pick. It can't be the 20th pick. It can only be what it is right now. Worst case scenario for the Eagles if they make that trade for next year's pick is that it's the exact same slot, or the 32nd. And at that point, it doesn't matter. So, yeah. You make this trade and say, "Okay, I'm betting you're not going to get to the Super Bowl again. I'm banking that your team is going to struggle a little more than when you played historically one of the easiest schedules in the last 50 years. Again, I have no idea what Howie Roseman is going to be able to pull off. It does feel like the Eagles fan base, I read the comments so I see this, seems truly divided. That's my loose grasp on it right now. About 50% feels like he's gone. The other 50% feels like he's staying. I'm confident A.J. Brown doesn't want to be there. On that, I am confident. I think A.J. Brown is done. I think A.J. Brown is at the point where he does his own thing, whatever that means. And I think half the fan base really wants A.J. Brown to stay, and the other half is like, "Goodbye and good luck, get out of here." So it's interesting. I think there's a real argument to believe that A.J. Brown is a declining player at this moment. And so if you can trade a player who's on his way down for a first-round pick, yeah, man, that's what you do. You're getting your value back. What you gave up to get him, you then obviously won a legitimate Super Bowl with him, and now you're selling him and getting a chance to recoup. It's such an amazing value proposition. It's literally like buying a used car, driving it a ton, getting all the value out of it, and then at the bare minimum selling it for as much as you paid for it. You're essentially driving a car for the last 4 years for free. You can't beat that. It's an amazing deal. Even if you paid 50 grand for a car and sold it for 40, you're like, all right, I drove that for 4 or 5 years and only spent 10 grand on it, essentially. That's still great. But it's pretty sweet to be able to just say, I actually never spent money on a car because I just keep buying and selling them, and I come out on top every time. That's a huge expense you're essentially not having to pay. It's a massive advantage. That's how you get ahead. And that is the situation the Eagles find themselves in. To me, this all depends on what's possible in the short term for the Philadelphia Eagles, in terms of what they can achieve and what they believe their timeline is. As much as I think the Eagles would want to find themselves in a situation where they could trade to a team and get a top 10 pick right now, if that would make it easier to accept the dead cap, I could see that. But if they're not willing to do that, and it seemingly is most definitely going to be post-June 1st or whenever that date is, then obviously the first pick is going to be in the 2027 draft. And it could be a boat or a mystery box. It could even be a boat. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about A.J. Brown? Do you think he's being traded to the New England Patriots? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.